Hi, I'm Steph and I write a blog called Steph's Two Girls, and I started that the day that our younger daughter was diagnosed with autism. She was just 2.5 at the time and she's now 11. About a year after that diagnosis, we stumbled across the words pathological demand avoidance on the internet, and we realised that that description fitted our daughter perfectly. And so I wanted to try and tell you a little bit more about pathological demand avoidance and what that means. Basically, it's a type of autism. Now, autism is a term that's been shortened from the phrase autism spectrum disorder or autism spectrum condition, and everybody generally calls that autism now. But there's two other types of autism that are more commonly known: Asperger's syndrome, which has been talked about a lot in the press recently, and classic autism. And then PDA, so that's short for pathological demand avoidance, makes up the third type of autism, and there can be overlapping of characteristics of people with these conditions. Pathological demand avoidance is an anxiety-driven need to be in control and to avoid other people's demands and expectations, basically so that that individual with PDA can remain in control. And it means they have very high anxiety levels most of the time. It's different to just demand avoidance, which a lot of children generally might present with when they just don't want to do something, such as work in school. Teenagers might not want to tidy their rooms. These are all general demand avoidance. As adults, we might procrastinate and not get on with tasks. All of that is general demand avoidance. But the difference with PDA is the extreme high anxiety that is driving everything and preventing even normal everyday activities from happening. So, for example, for our girl, even though she loves swimming, to actually get out of the house and go swimming is such a big deal that we often don't manage that. It's also said that children with PDA, it's like they can't help won't. So they can't help the fact that they won't do something. It's not just outright refusal, it's just that they find either conditions very tricky or there's just been too many demands placed on them and they're trying to regain that control. So yeah, PDA is very different to typical demand avoidance. You have to use a lot of very specific strategies for PDA, which involve things such as choice. Very important to use the right language. So you're not using controlling words and phrases such as "you must do this," "we need to do that." And instead, everything is phrased in a much gentler kind of way, such as, "oh, I think maybe we could go and do that right now." So language is really important. Humour often works very well with children with PDA. And I think how we stumbled across it, or why we found it different to the typical types or descriptions of autism, was that our girl is very good at role play and with imagination, and she's wants to be very sociable. She struggles with all the social rules, as autistic people often do, but she wants to be sociable. I think the thing about autism, though, is that everybody is different, every individual is unique. So that's not to say that all autistic people are like that, but certainly our girl just presented with very different characteristics. And if you're not sure about your child, or a child you have in the class with you, then I definitely suggest that you go over to the PDA Society website, and on there is a questionnaire called Extreme Demand Avoidance Questionnaire, and it's basically a checklist, and you can run through it and see if your child does these things, and at the end you can tally up, get a score. It's not an official diagnosis, but it's a very good will give you a very good guideline as to whether it might be PDA that you're talking about. So that's just a very brief introduction. There's so much more I can say about it, and hopefully I'll do a few more videos as we go along. But yeah, that's kind of the main point I wanted to get across, is that PDA is a type of autism.